Chacham. I'll read it in Vayom Moshe itself, so we get the full picture. I got you. Vayom Moshe Pei Gimel. The aim litois. He says, don't make a mistake. The loimer and say she'ein b'mem shalazu iser hashvuos, that the state of Israel does not violate the three oaths. Why? Yan she'ein ba geula v'cheres klal, because it has no freedom at all. El adarab tzaras gedolos beruchnius v'gashmius, that the state of Israel has only brought about more and more danger and troubles. 28,000 Jewish lives lost, right? War after war after war, and persecution of the frum Jews, right? All the stuff that's been going on all this time. Therefore, it's not cheres. That's not called sovereignty. That's not called living. That's not called a geula. He says shezeh v'adai tois gomer. So therefore, people want to say, okay, therefore it's mutter, because it's not cheres, it's mutter. So on that, the Rebbe says shezeh v'adai tois gomer. Shar b'mashem ma'iri hamaral. The Maharal who says, Im hu al yidei kfiyah shal misa, Rachmana litzlan. The Maharal says that even if the nations force us to go back and make an independent state, v'al yidei surim v'yinuim kashim, they give us either death or torture, kedoire shal shmad, like in the generation of Hadrian who persecuted the Jews, right? Shezeh v'adai einoi cheres, and they make them go back and make a state. So the Maharal says, no, you still have to resist the pressure and not make a state. Yeah? And Ramal says, Yoharg Val Yavor. So he says, Joseph Vadai, if you would go ahead and listen to the Goyim and make a state, Einu Cheres to Geula, that would not be freedom. El Etzar Gedoyla Rachmon Elizon, that would be like the worst persecution. You're doing it at gunpoint. V'afal Pichein, and still, Kosev She'oivrim Al Shvua, for who be Yoharg Val Yavor. Still the Maharal says it's Aser. So you see that even a non-free state is also an invader of the Shavuos. Okay, the Rebbe says, and then he says, Gama Rambam Zal be'igeres Teman Kosev Sham be'uvda didei. The Rambam in his story about the false Messiah in Yemen, she's vadel the Melech. He says when they find out the story, like the story that the Rambam brings, that this false Messiah was going around convincing Jews to follow him. He says, when the king of Yemen will find out about this false Messiah, it's just going to bring about more tsaras for the Yidden of Yemen. And still the Rambam says that they're being over on the Shua. He says the reason why the Shvuah is so chomer is because it's going to lead to such terrible things if you do it. Hashem really doesn't want you to do it because He's afraid. He's saying that if you do this, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be terrible consequences. V'chein b'vnei Ephraim. The Bnei Ephraim went out of Egypt early, right? Lo hisigu shum toyeles me'uma. They didn't accomplish anything by leaving early. El sheyatzu b'mitzrayim ad plishtim shekaravi. They stopped by Eretz Plishtim. Ubishvil oisai yitzia amru zal aleim, and they got killed by the Plishtim, right? And what happened? And Chazal say on them she'amru al shvuah v'nenshu kol kach mar she'nergu kulam rachman litzlan. V'al korchach she'ein hashvuas davka al asagas ezel melucha v'cheres. You see that the oaths don't only prohibit the achievement of full freedom, el asiyas tzedadim, but even steps toward the goal, b'davar neged gzeres hagal shegazer Hashem yisborach, even that is included in the shvuah. V'chein mistaber devada yimein ratzon haboyer yisborach bazeh ein boy atzlacha. Avada, it's not going to succeed to make a state because Hashem doesn't want it to succeed. Im Hashem lo yivne bayis shav amru boy nav boy. Hashem's not going to build the city, then, or the house, then it's the workers toil in vain.
That's where the term Nature Karta comes from, because in the Yishlami Chagiga,
right,
76C, and
right,
the Midrash Eicha, they quote
Shav Shakat Shomer. The watcher watches in vain if Hashem is not watching the city. Right. El De'asiyas Se'adim Levatel. But taking a step to go against the decree of Hashem, even if he doesn't accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. Okay? That's the quote from the Rebbe. So, what he wants to take out of this, go back to the Sefer Ma'aneh Chacham now. You have to turn the page because he quotes the Rebbe here, and he says now, next page, top of the page, Mem Mem Hey at the top. Hare mefurish bidvarav. You see explicit in the words of the Satmar Rebbe, Shel Ister Demaistik Kfir V'Oyin Shashvuas Shabasiyis Memshal Izu, the Ister of making a state of Israel, Einoi Mitzad Memshal Atzmo. It's not the state itself. The Mikivan Shekoise V'Atzmo. Even he himself writes, Shein Bla Gula V'Cheres Klal, that the state doesn't really have a gula in it. V'Gam B'Siyim Dvar V'Koise V'Afi Meinu Masig Mum. Even if you're not accomplishing anything. Therefore, the state is not really taking itself freedom.
What's alima?
Aliba demis, according to the truth. What's the Isser of Zionism? It's only because of the goal, to reach the goal of full independence. Therefore, what they did, what they tried to do, it's taking steps. Therefore, it's considered kfira. Memvav, Sif Tes Zayin. Okay? Hinei, v'hinei, af shem mefurish b'vayom Moshe shem memshal shem medina ein ba geula v'cheres klal. Even though it's explicit in this Pei Gimel that I just quoted that there's no cheres at all. V'gam behemshich dvar v'koisev af ein imenu mastig mu'uma. Even if you don't accomplish anything in the state, yesh harbe anoshim. But he says there's a lot of people today. B'achug the Satmar, they're in the Satmar Chasidus. Shepashu detzlam, that it's obvious to them. Shekol mitziyah shem memshala yiyah be'ez oifen sheyiyah any kind of state of Israel have a cheres to geula. That is freedom from galus. That's geula. It's a geula shel sheker, but it's a geula. Ukeshashoyel imetzlam, and when I asked them a question, how is it possible that this thing that we predicted was not going to happen happened? So Oinim they answer, Shazeh Maisa Sitra Achra. They said it's from the Sitra Achra. Like in other words, it's an sign for us. Like Hashem is testing the faithful.
Who did he ask?
I don't know. Since in the end, Hashem is going to defeat the Satan and he's going to take away the state. The state's only going to be temporary. It's going to disappear. He says now it's taka freedom from galus. It's only for a short time. Then they're going to go back to galus. So he makes fun of this answer. He says, "V'hinei kol mi sheyesh le moach bekadkadei mevin shedvarim meluhem shtuyis gomer." He says, "Shtuyis mamish." He says this thing is completely stupid. She'ein tzarich klal lahashiv aleim. You don't even have to answer. Why? Because he's saying basically that you can't just answer up when something goes wrong against your faith. You can't just say it's a test because l'maisa something went wrong. Aleph, Lafidi Vrem, Shekol Metzia Shem Shala, He Cheres Lugula, Viraka Cheres, Humi Kayach Sitra Achra, Nimsa Damasha Anshe Portugal, Veazakin Sheboisechem, Hayish Nal, Biois, Shai Bekoich Lisha, Hayashem, Ratzu Wilkod Melucha. He says, going to come out that these people in Portugal who wanted to make a state, Ratzu Lasois Melucha Shel Sitra Achra. They must have wanted to make a Melucha of the Satan. V'gam Ratzu Lavor Al Ister Demaisik Kfira. They wanted to do something that was clear, B'chdei Lahasik Melucha Zu. And again, he doesn't like that. And he says, based, the thing itself doesn't make sense. It's only going to be for a short time. And that's if you look back in the first page of this whole Sefer, Ma'anei Chacham, and page Jud Aleph of the Sefer Ma'anei Chacham, he starts out with a sentence, Samim or l'choshech, v'choshech l'or. Emunah l'kfira, u'kfira l'emunah. So he's trying to denigrate Satmar people who say they call people who believe in the state of Israel kafrim, but they themselves are really the kafrim, according to Rabbi Elkan, because they're saying that the state of Israel exists and it's from the Sitra Achra. Well, if you're saying that, then you're saying that your emunah didn't come true. So he's saying rather you should say like me that the state of Israel is not really a state, so therefore it's mutter. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to see in Yirtzeh Hashem, I'm going to say, hopefully I'll have time to say it, is that neither of these is correct. Rabbi Elkan's Mahalach is not correct, and this other thing that he quotes from the Satmar people who say that it's Sitra Achra, that's also not the correct answer. Because we can't say that something happened that's against our belief. and then just answer it up by saying it's Sitra Achra.